Just a few weeks after James McFadden won the 2021 World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series Rookie of the Year title, it was announced that he was going to be leaving Kasey Kahne Racing for Roth Motorsports. And just a few hours after the press release was put out about James's future, I was lucky enough to catch up with him and chat about everything that's involved in the deal, get all your questions answered, and a lot more. Just before we get into it though, the sprintcarhub.com website is now live and it has these brand new tees that are available. There are only very limited numbers of each size, so make sure you jump in quick and get your size before they are all sold out. There's a bunch of my personal merchandise on there too, so make sure you check out sprintcarhub.com. Also, if you're new here, make sure you do subscribe down below and ring the little bell to make sure you get notifications. Now for the chat with James. James McFadden, thanks for joining me, man. We've got so much to talk about, but first, congrats on your first full season with the World of Outlaws and clinching the Rookie of the Year title. Now that your American season has wrapped up, you're back home. So I just want to know what you and your family have been up to since then.
Yeah, obviously getting back to Australia was a lot of fun. Tough, and it probably wasn't in the cards, you know, a few weeks ago. So it's really nice to be home, hanging out with family, and got a freshly renovated house. So it's nice to be able to get out of the motorhome and into the house. And like I said, just hanging out with family. Obviously, with the way it was traveling backwards and forwards, my family hasn't got to hang out with us or my little boys. So it's been a lot of fun so far. And that's basically what we'll be doing until we go back over.
We planned to do this chat almost a week ago, and you told me, hey, can we hold off for a little bit because you've got some news coming out. And the news finally came out probably just a few hours ago that you're going to be joining Roth Motorsports for the 2022 World of Outlaws season. You're also taking the whole Kasey Kahne Racing 9-car crew with you. Can you tell me how, when, and why this whole deal came about?
Yeah, you know, Roth Motorsport obviously at the end of the season was looking for a driver, and you know, towards the end of the season there, I found that I didn't have a deal for 2022. So as of a couple of weeks ago, we got it all together, and you know, last week we sort of put the stamp on the whole deal, and yeah, ready for 2022. So huge to be able to take my team with me. Obviously Justin, Wood, and Rob, we've been working together for a long time now, you know, 3 years, and it's something that I think you need in this sport, is a bit of good chemistry, working together a long time, figuring out what we like and what we don't like. So I feel like that's a huge step. It's not like I'm just going to a fresh team and not knowing, you know, the ins and outs of everything. So I got, you know, 3 of the best guys on the road, and I'm excited for that. And then obviously with Dennis and Teresa Roth is a huge opportunity. They've had a car on the tour for a long time now, and you know, that's a very successful team. So looking forward to the opportunity, and can't wait to get after it.
Kasey obviously finished out the season with Roth Motorsports himself. Is he involved in this deal at all, and did he help line it up for you?
It's an entirely Roth deal. But he definitely didn't leave me hanging at the end of the year, and you know, put a good word in for me and kept my name out there. So they definitely didn't leave me hanging, and you know, we're still extremely good friends, and yeah, he definitely helped, I would say, to get me one foot into the door for sure.
Will Kasey be racing next year, like in the 9-car? Is it kind of just a bit of a swap deal and he can kind of do select races?
I'm not too sure, honestly. I just know that you know, at the end of this year that I wasn't going to be in the 9-car, so I had to make other plans, and I'm sure in the near future everyone will find out what's happening with the 9-car or with Kasey or anything else that's involved with that.
I imagine with you and your family basically living out of an RV the entire time over there, that it's pretty easy for you guys to move around, but your whole crew is moving with you. Will you guys be based out of California, or what's the deal there?
Yeah, so obviously for us it's quite easy. You know, Justin's from North Carolina, so I do think a lot of the buildings of the car and stuff will be done through North Carolina there, out of the KKR shop. But it's definitely the Roth deal out of California, and from there, once we're on the road, once we leave for Volusia, you're basically on the road for the whole year anyway. So it'll be hotel car parks and stuff like that where the shop will be. But yeah, for the time being, I believe everything's still in North Carolina.
At first, I thought when you told me that you're moving to Roth, that I thought, I'm not sure if this is like the best deal. And I'm sure people that aren't in the know would probably think the same way, because they're not really known for continuity. But at the same time, the more I think about it, it's a team that really has a lot of potential, don't they? And they do have a good history when they can hang on to people. And I really feel like it's, like I said, the more I think about it, it's a really good chance for you both to get the best out of each other. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, absolutely. The way I look at it is I think from the outside looking in at a lot of motorsport, sprint car racing in the US, it's a lot different to what we do here, or it's a business, and if you don't run it as a business, then you're not going to be successful. So to me, if I'm running 15th every night, I don't deserve to be out there. So Dennis is a hard businessman, and I think that's where it's at. If you had a successful business and your managers weren't doing a very good job at that, and you weren't making money or being successful, then you're not going to have your job. So I look at it that way. It motivates me to be successful and stay, on top of what we need to be doing, car-wise, driving-wise, everything like that. So I think it's a huge opportunity for me. I think, I'll be sort of a single car deal with myself and Justin, and sort of, out of the shadows a little bit behind Brad, because that's obviously pretty tough. And then racing as teammates gets tough at times, especially, when he's the championship leader. So I feel like it's a great deal for me, and I still stay in touch and involved with my guys, and obviously, I'll stay in touch with Casey and stuff as good friends. So yeah, I can't see it being a bad thing at all, and I'm excited. Obviously, everyone's got their opinions, and all that matters is that I'm happy, and my guys and Dennis and Teresa are happy.
The original reason I wanted to have you on Sprint Car Hub was to just talk about your first year with the Outlaws, because I thought that was really interesting to hear enough. But we'll get into that. You've raced for a few years now in the States, but this is your first full season really with the Outlaws. And I think you're the only the fourth Australian to ever do the entire tour. What were some of the difficulties in making it happen, and what was the experience like? It's a bit of a circus lifestyle. Did you enjoy it like you thought you would?
Yeah, absolutely. I think difficulties is very much a thing. It's, getting your visas, and, getting a motorhome to live in, and getting the family visas, and them moving over. And obviously with the way COVID was, it's just me, Zoe and Mav. There's no family to help out and that sort of stuff. So the logistics side of things were really tough. And living in a motorhome, having absolutely no idea where I was going or what to do, was pretty tough. Where to dump, or how to get a slide out, or how to fix a slide out. So yeah. That stuff was always entertaining and kept you on your toes. Like, I think I drove 22,000 miles this year in that motorhome in 6 months. So you're a truck driver, a race car driver, a mechanic, it's a lot. That's a lot on your plate. So I think for me, the thing I learned the most was mental side of things. I've been racing a long time, and just sporadically been over to America and never really done a full tour. So you were always racing at one, probably tracks that you were going to be half decent at, or two, you could choose where you wanted to be and what races you wanted to do. Where this, you're stuck. You're stuck on the tour, and if you have a bad night, or you've got a track coming up that you suck at, it's really hard to mentally prepare yourself to get out of that hole. And I found that was probably in mid part of my season there. I was struggling with my car a lot, and struggling at tracks that I probably wasn't very good at. And so that all just compounds, and you can't get away from it, because, you're in a Walmart car park driving to the next one, and it's just a grind. So I think once I figured out that side of things, and we worked on our car a lot and worked on me a lot, and I think once I figured that side of things out, it become a little easier than I thought going up and down the road, because you don't dwell on it. You got to learn to just get over it once it's done, and move on to the next night and be stronger and better for the next deal. So yeah, I think that's probably the toughest thing. The racing obviously is brutal, as everyone knows. It's the World of Outlaws. It's just, the top of the game. So that's always going to be tough, and you know that going in. But I think mentally, that side of things, 80 something races with not much break is pretty tough. And I'm used to racing a series with World Series, but it's 18 races and it's 20 races. So if you have a bad night, you're just like, whatever, it's all good. We've only got, 15 more, but it can really compound you, by the end of the year if you don't get over it quick. So yeah, other than that, it was a lot of fun. A lot of really cool things we saw, and, there are not many people who can say they traveled around America and in an RV with your family and got to race a car at the same time.
How long do you want to pretty much live over there for? Because I imagine, any sprint car driver wants to live the dream of racing with the Outlaws, but do you want to live there permanently? Because, I see you as a true Aussie who really enjoys the lifestyle that we have over here, but obviously you want to be a professional sprint car driver. So does, this past year, did that give you an impression of what your end goal is and what the next few years look like?
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely not a lifer on the road. I think that for me personally, I'm gonna, I'll know when I've had enough and pull it out of gear. And I definitely am not going to go till I'm, mid 40s or 40 years old. I think, although in saying that, it's the best time of your career is around those late 30s, 40s. I believe you get your head screwed on a little more. You've got the experience, and at times I wish I was, 26, 27 right now, and I could do it for 10 more years. But I think, I've sacrificed, not just myself, but my family has sacrificed a lot to do what we do. And there's a point where you've got to be realistic about it and say, righto, there's more than me. I got a little boy now who needs to go to school and do all that stuff. So I think, in the next few years, definitely I'm still keen to be on the road, and we'll just have to evaluate it when we get to there. I think it'd be a hard thing to do if you're rolling championships off. It'd be a hard thing to say I've had enough. So I don't know, mate. I just think you need to be realistic about what you want to do and where you want to be at the end. I think the thing is, you could be a 20-time champion, and as soon as you retire, the sport forgets about you anyway. So how many times do you need to win a race before you're satisfied in yourself?
Yeah, that is a really good way to put it. A few championships would be a pretty good goal. Speaking of a few championships, not many people can say that they did their first ever Outlaw tour with the defending champion team, the three-time championship winning team now. And you worked alongside your teammate, Brad Sweet. Can you go into the relationship that you have with Brad Sweet and what it was like throughout the year and how it changed, and also how close are the two KKR teams? Because I know that, even teams like Tony Stewart Racing, two cars, but they might not necessarily be that close with how close they work. What was it like with you guys?
Yeah, obviously good. We have a really, really good team around there at KKR. We all got along really well, from, everyone from the office girls upstairs to the, T-shirt people, all the way through Brad and myself and Casey. So it was a great atmosphere there. Brad and I have been friends for a long time. We hung out in Australia when he first came over at, 16, 17, 18 or whatever he was. So we've known each other a long time. So it's good. He's an open book, but very quick to shut the book if you start to go too fast. We bounce a lot of ideas off each other, and there's tracks, say, such as Williams Grove, that I feel like I could get around a little better than what Brad could. So he would ask for help there, and I would give that, and then he would help me at a lot of other tracks like Eldoras and stuff where it's a completely different driving style. So our relationship was great. It wasn't, like I said, between the teams, it definitely wasn't an open book on setup wise. We just bounce a few ideas here and there, or someone would try one if they were in a dash or a B main or had nothing much to lose. you know, our cars were the same chassis but different. You know, we ran different shock combinations and a few different wing combinations. So between the two teams, they really weren't the same cars.
Yeah.
But you could still, you know, bounce ideas between the two of us and the three of us there with Casey in the end. So it was always a very good relationship. There's some heated moments, obviously, like, you know, King's Royal there where we got together and a few little things like that. But I think when you race 80 times a year, you're going to expect that here or there.
Yeah, fair enough. I noticed that you made some friends with the other drivers too, and I assume it was kind of the same with Brad. If you're going up and down the road together, staying at the same places and eating at the same places, that you and your family start to get along. Was it Jacob Allen that I saw that you seem to become pretty good friends with?
Yeah, Jake and I and Hannah and Zoe become really good friends. They were sort of on our schedule a bit. We didn't do, it's crazy, we did the whole Outlaw Tour and did 2 night drives for the whole tour. So with Mav's schedule, he would sleep at night, so we didn't really drive the bus. But so Jake liked that idea, and he didn't really like driving at night, so we'd camp together and hang out. And they were a lot like us in the fact they really enjoy good food and going out and experiencing a new town or a new cuisine or a new place to go and hang out. So we ended up becoming really good friends and, you know, traveled basically the last half of the year. We camped together every night and hung out. So it's a lot of fun. Got a lot of, you know, met a lot of really good people on the road there and hung out with a lot of people, you know, like Sheldon and Zan there on the road full time in a motorhome, and Wayne Johnson and a few of the Outlaw officials and stuff. So it was always really fun. It was always something to do, whether, you know, all the drivers would sort of go camp in the pits and go after themselves, but I'd go park in the fan area because I felt like it was more of an event and a bit more going on. And so it was always good fun.
When we raced together, the one thing I noticed about your driving style was that you're so aggressive and you attack so early in a race. And I don't know if you noticed that you do that, but I love it about you because you're fast all the time, and it really puts you on the front foot straight away. And I think it's ideal for when you're going over to race with the Outlaws, because they're that throw down fast where it doesn't matter where you go. As soon as you go out for hot laps, those guys are fast. Did you feel like that was an advantage going over there? And were there any other things that like the other drivers taught you, not so much, you know, verbally, but taught you while racing with them that you really picked up on over this past season?
Yeah, I think it's funny you say that. I think there's times, probably more often than not, it helps me being that aggressive at a start, or especially when I'm starting back a little bit.
Yeah.
But there's times that it hurts me a lot too. Like I'll go to, say, a Charlotte where it's a big wing speed flowing track, and I'll try and shoot the bottom at a start and do something funky, and I lose 5 spots. But it's something that I've got wide in my head, and I've always try to get that opportunity, and I stuff it up on a track like a Charlotte or an Eldora or places like that. And it's been really, really hard to get that out, you know, just to let the car float and do it instead of trying to chase dirt. Like in Australia, you've raced, obviously.
Yeah.
We always chase dirt. You always chase the color of the dirt in Australia. Like the darker the dirt, the more grip. So my brain has been taught to chase that, where in America, that's not fast all the time. There's times where the slick's the fastest place. So it's been really tough to try and change that. And I think, you know, places like Eldora, I've started to figure that out, and, you know, you can start floating the corners better. Like, you know, for example, like Logan Stewart, you never see him at Eldora run the very bottom or the very top. He can just float around and just keep his speed up to a point where he, you know, builds so much speed up that he passes cars and makes them look ridiculous. So I think, you know, you look at guys like your David Gravels, your Logan Schuharts that are very good at understanding what their wings do and keeping their tires under them, you know, floating through the middle and stuff. And then you look at a guy like Brad, who I think is exceptional at shooting a corner really hard. Like he can drive to the center of a corner harder than anyone else and get it stopped and pointed. So I think that's the hardest thing about the Outlaws. You got to have a balance between all of that. And like I said, I've been racing for a long time, and to go there, you don't really realize that you're so bad at some things until you go and race with those guys and they eat you up at every double file restart. Or, we go to a small track and it's fine. I can be aggressive and I think that's got a lot to do with starting 10th every night at a World Series show because of the inverts we have. So,
Sure.
I feel like there's a lot of times where I start on the front row of a heat race or third and I get too aggressive instead of just being, all right, I've got to run second. I try and win the heat race because that's what we do back here, and I mess the whole start up. So, yeah, I think once I settle that stuff down a little bit and, clean that, 10-15% of that up, I think we're more in the hunt. But, yeah, you learn so much off guys like qualifying. David Gravel's obviously phenomenal, and I just study how he does it. And, everyone can say his motors or his cars are good or they rip, but it hasn't mattered in the last 8 years what car he's in. He qualifies good. So it's him. He understands air good, and, you just got to figure out how to do it. That's your job as a race car driver.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious with Gravel that he knows how to qualify. I think Brad's probably the most consistent guy and really knows when to push. I think a guy like Larson is probably the best at keeping momentum up. And I'm sure obviously, that momentum is so important and probably the most important thing in sprint car racing. What's the one area that you think you need to improve on? Is it qualifying or the end of a race in the slick, or what is it for you?
So for me early, it was qualifying, half mile qualifying. I would say every time you do that, it's a 1/10 of a second. And I would show my board too much. I would probably not have faith in letting the car do what it should do and then showing too much board and unloading my right rear or whatever. So I worked very hard at that, and Justin and I worked very hard at getting a car that suited sort of the way that I do it. And I feel like our half mile program by the end of the year there for qualifying was great. But then it's so hard to get your car all the way back to where you need it to be on the slick. So finding a happy balance between those two places is something that I think I need to work on. I feel my short track game's pretty decent. I think we showed that through California and that. But, yeah, I think I overthink qualifying too much. I just don't let it do what it wants. And the momentum thing is huge. Like I said, in Australia here, I think you can get away with having a bad car or missing a line because of our tire and our wing and our grip that we have in our tracks, that you can miss the bottom and it's not huge. But like over there, 2/10 is the difference between being on the front row or starting 6th in a heat race, and then you finish 4th in your heat and you start 18th. So it's just a compound of issues. You've just got to be, I think I've got to the point where I get qualifying really good, or I'll screw my heat race up, and then I'll be really good in the feature and run 5th, or we'll screw qualifying up, don't do good in my heat, and then come from 18th to 5th in the feature. Like, I haven't put a whole string of night together, and that's where the Outlaws are so good.
I briefly got a chance to race in the States a couple of years ago, and I mean, I ran with obviously the flat wings and different tires, but I don't ever feel like I really got a handle or an understanding on it all. Can you explain to not only me, but people that are going to watch this, what the differences are with the tires and the wings, and how you have to drive and set them up separately?
Yeah, I think once a car's good, your car's as good as it's going to be in Australia or America. They feel the same. Like, if my car's really good in America, it feels the same as when my car's really good with a different wing and a different tire.
Sure.
I think Australia, you can be a lot lazier with your car. You don't have to be, the minute adjustment here or there to be fast. I think with our wing and our tire and obviously our racetracks too, not being wide and, slick, I think that you can make up for it because the tire allows you to. Your mistakes aren't as big. Whereas in America, if you miss the bottom or you overheat your tire too much, they go off. So I think it's just a smaller window over there to be good. And that's why I think, you watch Brad and what he did at the start of this season and be consistently fast every night is incredible, because it's the window's so hard and the tracks are so different. But then you also look at Brad towards the end of that year there, and he started to struggle a little bit. They obviously got it back to where they needed to be rolling. But I think that's why you never see a dominant car every week in sprint cars in America, because it's just so tough to get into that window and be there consistently. Where Australia, I feel like you can throw a set of bars in and turn a bit of right rear weight here and there and get your shocks within somewhere, and away you go. And you're within a pretty good ballpark, because majority of our tracks, I think maybe Sydney was a track that was tough, that you had to change your car a lot. And I think Perth is a track you have to change your car a lot. But outside of that, like I know with what we do with the Monte car, that we can stay very similar at most tracks, just change your stagger here or there or your wheel spacing, and you can basically be similar. So it's not like that in America, which is the toughest part as well, I think, for sure.
Well, at least we won't have to worry about racing in Sydney anymore. Well, not at the same track anymore anyway. Speaking of Monty, you seem to pretty much have prioritized your USA schedule now. What is your situation with Monte Motorsports, and what does your Australian schedule look like? It must be difficult with a young family that you're moving around so much, and obviously you're only here for a couple of months before the Outlaw season starts in February.
Yeah, it's a juggling act, but I think when you've got the opportunity to be able to drive for two great teams, you take it while you can. Like I said, I'm not a lifer. I'm not going to be doing this until I'm 60, so 50 or 60. But it's hard. It's hard to balance the two, and I'm unfortunate enough that Luch and Buzzy have allowed me to drive their car again this year. We're going to run on the 18th of December in Warrnambool. It'll be our first race, and just try and hit a lot of the bigger races up until obviously the Classic, and then and leave for Volusia. So it's tough on those guys. It really is. Obviously 3 years ago there, I had no plans on really going back to America and doing the whole tour, or really even going back to American races. So I was full into that 40 race schedule in Australia, and it was all good. And then an opportunity with KKR to do the Outlaw Tour comes up. It's tough to say no. And then I think if I left, and didn't do this year, at least I would leave asking a lot of questions, whether I could have done it better or could have, been a lot more successful. So I felt like it was a waste to not do it a few more years. So I'm thankful that Monty's understand that, and obviously an 80 race schedule to a 40 race schedule and the Outlaws is where you want to be as a full-time driver. And like I said, just happy that they're happy to keep me around. And obviously they did some races with Callum Williamson there towards the start of the year and the end of the year last year, and they were successful. So hopefully they can do some stuff like that, and it keeps Buzzy in the game.
So just going back to your schedule, you'll be racing pretty soon with Monty, hopefully, and then you'll finish around maybe the Classic Australia Day weekend before you head back over to
Yeah, that's the plan. I want to stay around home as much as I can, because I really like my own bed. So the more racing we can do around here, the better. I think we might travel a couple if we need to, but we can still do a few races here with what World Series and Speedway Australia have done with the challenges they have with the 5 races in South Australia and Victoria, and I believe there's some in Queensland. So obviously with all the border stuff that goes around, it's pretty tough to travel, so we'll just take it as it comes. But yeah, I plan to do as much racing as we can, and keep me eye into it, and get ready for Volusia straight after Classic.
Well, hopefully I'll see you here in Sydney, and I'm hoping to travel around and do some videos too. So I'm sure we'll see you there too. But thanks for coming on, man. And good luck with it all. And thanks very much.
All good, mate. Thanks for having me.